We're here to solve this TomTom puzzle by Thomas Snyder. It marks 400 posts by him for the web blog, so it's themed around 400 and it has a mystery set of numbers. So, figuring out the numbers is part of the puzzle. So, the first thing I see is I look at the first row and I see that there have to be four pairs of numbers which all multiply to 400. So, I'm just going to immediately note down the different pairs that could do that, and then we can narrow them down as we go. So these are the possibilities. There's also a possibility of 20 by 20 which does multiply to 400, but these have to be distinct numbers, so that gets eliminated by itself. Now I look at the second row and I look at this sum of 400 for five cells, and it seems pretty restrictive. So the first thing I see is that this 400 cannot be part of it, obviously. Now, if 200 is not part of it, the remaining numbers that I have, there aren't five numbers that are high enough for me to make a sum of 400. So I can immediately place 200, and I can see again using the same method here for the 100. If there's no 100, the next four largest numbers are 80, 50, 40, and 25, which sum to 195, but I need a sum of 200 from these. So 100 will be part of it as well. So now I just look at the remaining three cells and what numbers could be possible there to sum to 100. So basically I see two possibilities, which is either 80, 16, and 4, or 50, 40, and 10. So in both of these possibilities, what we can see is either this pair and this pair is taken, and we already know these two pairs are taken, or this pair and this pair is taken. So either way, along with these two, we have our four pairs within these six. So that eliminates the 1 into 400 option. The next thing here is in this row, what are the numbers which won't appear in the 400? So if it's 80, 16, and 4, then the remaining numbers are 25, 5, and 2. And if it's 50, 40, and 10, the remaining numbers from the sets we have are 8, 4, and 2. Now, with both of these sets, at least if either of this set is true, what that means is two of these numbers or two of these numbers will be in these two cells. So if it's 2, 4, and 8, let's look at the possibilities. If it's 4 and 8, that's 32, and 400 is not divisible by 32, so that option is gone. If it's 2 and 8, then it's 16, and we need 25 over here. And we don't really have a way to make 25 in two cells from our numbers. So we have a 25, but we don't have a 1, and obviously 5 can't repeat over here. So the other option is 2 and 4. So that gives us 8. The remaining cells need to multiply to 50. We can do that with 25 and 2, but remember that this set corresponds to this set. So actually we don't have 25 available in our inventory if we go with 2 into 4. So what that basically means is this option is gone, and that cancels out this option as well. So now we have a set of numbers. This is basically our set of numbers that you can see here. Now I look at now let's look at the rest of the grid a little. So this 400 sum, now that we know the numbers, it's pretty restrictive. The only way it can be satisfied is with 200 and 200s. And also what I can see is no matter what, even if I could repeat one number out of this set, I would still not be able to change these five numbers if I needed five numbers that sum to 400. So using that, I basically know that these five numbers are going to appear in this 400 as well as this 400. So that gives me a lot of markings for later on in the puzzle. So for instance, the numbers here will not be part of the 400, but they also are not by themselves a pair that will multiply to 400. So actually, one of the numbers from here would have to come here, and that would mean that it would also come here. So that's just a marking for later. Now I'll get back to this 400 product, and I see that if it's 5 into 25, I know that two of these numbers are used. So if I see that if it's 5 into 25, that makes it 125, which makes it impossible to fill these two cells. If it's 2 into 5, that's 10, and the remaining needed is 40. And again, I can't make 40 with any of the numbers I have with me. Actually, I'll just remove these two to make it clear. So I don't have a way to make 40 with any of this. So what that means is I actually end up with 2 and 25. And that means the remaining two cells have to have a product of 8, because this is 2 into 25, 50. The remaining is 8. That can only be done by 2 into 4. So basically that means that this is because there's a 2 here, we get a 2 here and a 25 here. That also means the remaining number that is not here is a 5, and we get an 80 here, and that immediately gives us an 80 here from our earlier notation. Now we know that a 4 has to be part of a 400 sum, so a 4 has to be part of this as well, as in a 5 cell 400 sum. So since 4 is a part of this, that means this is 2 and this is 4. And also it means that these two will be 5 and 25, because we know that they won't be a part of the 400 sum. Similarly, this 400, it has to have 4 somewhere, we know that. So the 4 can only come here. And it also can't have a 5 again from our earlier deduction. So the 5 would have to come above, and that gives us some more progress. So since so this can't be 5 and 80, so this is now 25 and 16. I'll just remove these now because it's pretty clear the numbers that we have. Let's just finish this column with a 5. Now I look at this 400 product, and actually it is pretty minimal in the digits that it can take, because it's 5 cells. So actually the only way this is satisfied is if I have two 2s, a 4 and two 5s. So the second 5 can only come here, and the two 2s have to be packed in like this, and the remaining cell has a 4. Now I look at this 400 product. It can't be 2 into 200 because there are two 2s. It can't be 4 into 100 because there are two 4s. So it has to be 16 into 25. Similarly, this one can't be 4 into 100 because there are two hundreds. So it's 202. So that means let's just complete the column. That gives us 100 here. That allows us to complete this row. And there's also this column that we can get some progress in because of all these hundreds. There are 300s over here, so you can put 100 here and a 200 here because there are 200s, two 200s here. So now the next part of the process is to see that this 400 product cannot be 2 into 200. So it has to be 16 into 25. Let's just note that. And this would have to be 2 into 200. What that means is this 400 product cannot be 2 into 200 because both of them will eliminate from this cell. That's not possible. So for this row, 200 would have to be here. That actually gives us a 200 here and resolves this pair. Now let's look at the 2s. Actually, no, let's use these 200s to get this. So this row's 200 has to be here, and here it has to be this one. We also get hundreds, so the 100 for this row and the 100 for this row. Just some trivial markings as we go on. Now, if I look at the 2s, so there are, so almost all the 2s are done. There are 2 more 2s left. So in this row, in the third last row, You could have a 2 here, but then that would need a 200 here and it breaks. So the only place for the 2 is here and the last 2 is here. Now I'll just mark that this has to have 16 or 80, and so this will also have basically 16 or 25, or it's 5 or 80. Here as well, I'll just mark it 80 or it's 25. Okay, so now look at the fives here. That means in the last row, 5 can only go in one of these two cells. So if I have a 5 here, the remaining is 80. The only way I can make an 80 with my number set, I can't use the 80 itself because I don't have a 1. So it has to be 16 into 5. So that means this area has two fives. So we get this as the resolution. Okay, so that limits where we can put a 5. Actually, yeah, the only place remaining for the 5 for the last 5 is here, and that allows us to resolve this and this as well, and this will be an 80. Now we can just fill in this row. It's and the now we just kind of complete the Latin square element of this puzzle. It should be pretty easy to reach a solution from here. And the puzzle is solved. So just going back to what we did, first we saw the first row, which gave us 4 pairs, which told us that it will be 4 pairs that multiply to 400. We got 7 possible pairs from that, and then we narrowed it down further with this sum. We narrowed it down to 6 pairs, and then we used the numbers here which were not part of the sum to narrow down to the final 4 pairs, and then we use those 4 pairs for the rest of the grid. And the key step was noticing that this 400 sum can only have these 5 numbers from our number set. So that actually drove a lot of the beginning portion of the solve. And then it was just about making sure that we fit in the pairs properly in all of these 400 products. So that's how we solved this mystery TomTom. Hope that it helped you. Thank you.